Okay, so another way of presenting that whole path to enlightenment, of course, you know, the fourth noble truth, the true paths or truth of the path. True paths is it's good because it's like that authentic, true path that's going to get you where you want to go. So another presentation is on the three higher training. So this is common to Hinayana Mahayana, or at least we say Theravada Mahayana Vajrayana. It's common across the board for all Buddhist practitioners, the practice of the three high trainings. So the first of that is the importance of ethical conduct, importance of refraining from the non-virtuous actions and engaging in virtue. Of course, in a Mahayana motivation, we would add on that, and being of maximum benefit to others. So that's where the bodhicitta motivation kicks in. But at this level of pure ethics, so whatever levels of vows that we have of holding those purely, which means we have to know what those vows are, what it means to create a downfall or mistake or breaking those vows, how to restore those vows, and so forth. So whichever levels of vows we've taken, whether so we have the Pratamoksha, individual liberation vows, those 5, no killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct, and intoxicants. That comes along with usually comes together with the refuge ceremony when we take those vows, with a refuge ceremony. And then the bodhisattva vows, and then tantric vows. So whichever levels. And then the Pratamoksha vows, of course, we have the different levels for lay practitioners and for different levels of monastics. There's a number of different levels for monastics. So for all of us, in maintaining pure ethics also indicates a need for mindfulness, alertness, caution when the disturbing states of mind arise, and to know how to apply antidotes to those. So that itself is a huge training. And this is foundational to, is why it comes first, to absolutely everything else, to all our practice. So no matter how far we go in our spiritual path, always this is a foundation. It's never not a foundation. It's never like, oh, I don't need that anymore because I'm practicing Tantra or something. No, absolutely not. It's in fact, now you have more vows than before. And so here we're looking at particularly the discipline of our physical actions and our speech, particularly those. And why I'm saying particularly those is that then by being able to, well, of course, the ones of the mind, to be able to identify those and know their antidotes, so that then we have a foundation to enable us to then progress or develop on the higher training of concentration. So the concentration, that mind of, we say calm abiding, shamatha, shine in Tibetan, of being able to place the mind on whatever we want, on whatever object we want, for as long as we want. And so we train in that. We looked at that when we looked at how to meditate, those of way back. So that practice, that particular practice of meditation, shamatha, which is unpacked very more extensively in the 3rd volume, Lama Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the path to enlightenment, which is in 3 volumes. Volume 3 is on that. It's called the Special Insight chapter. It's more than one chapter, and actually the first half of it is on developing calm abiding. So we've looked previously at those 9 stages, those 9 levels of that. And as we're developing that capacity to focus, to concentrate our mind, then bringing in the wisdom aspect, the analytical aspect of using our capacity of the mind, our capacity to think, and giving it pointers. So here we can say, we don't have to wait till, further along the path. We start this when we're looking at the Lam Rim, the Graduated Path to Enlightenment, we start this from the very beginning, appreciating our precious human rebirth and looking at the qualities of spiritual teacher and so forth, before we even look at the lower scope, which introduces the ethics. So these three higher trainings would pervade all of our spiritual development. Okay. So then basically in these teachings about samsara, about the 12 links, the Eightfold Noble Path and so forth, our aim from that is generating a mind of renunciation, of definite emergence. So this teaching, the teaching on the Four Truths, on the 12 links, Eightfold Noble Path, fits into that middle scope. And the goal of a middle scope practitioner, if you're going to opt out there, suggest you don't, would be, I just think when you do postgrad and you sort of go, oh, opt out at the graduate diploma, I'll opt out at here and here and here. No, we're not opting out. Okay. But if one was to, this would be for self-liberation, even though we're not, if you like, taking that option as Mahayana practitioners, we're wanting to become a Buddha. That's our goal, our long-term goal. Nonetheless, we do, and we have talked about letting go of attachment, in particular, our desires and so forth, not letting go of having things, but the mind that grasps at this and that, and particularly this self that doesn't exist anywhere on any, the self, not ourself, but the self that the mind makes up and creates stories about. So Lama Tsongkhapa, in the three principal aspects of the path, so the first one of those is renunciation, this mind of definite emergence. In other words, I'm definitely wanting to be out of samsara, this cycle of existence of suffering. Thank you very much. I had enough of that. So when you've actually generated fully that mind, Lama Tsongkhapa says, when having trained in that way, so all of these presentations on how to train in that way, there is no arising even for a second, even 1 second, of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence, which are not exactly perfections, but we think they are. But to say in this life, to everything that fulfills our sensory desires, when there's no attraction to that, dare I say, you can see the food, you can enjoy the food, but it's not, I must have. Earlier this morning, someone raised a point about the fact that they'd bought chocolate with the intention to offer to the Buddha on the altar. But it never got there, right? It never got there. So we're having a discussion. Is that breaking a vow? No, it's not breaking a vow, but it's a very strong indicator of not having let go of that attachment, isn't it? So we look at the things that we're desirous of that really, there's a lot of stuff, say, we're not troubled by. So for example, for myself as a monastic, we don't do singing and dancing. And having previously grown up all singing or dancing, by the time I was preparing for ordination, I had to check my mind that I wasn't really wanting to sing and dance anymore. It's a little bit easier when you get older. I didn't miss the music. I didn't, whatever. So we look at the things that we have attachment to, and we develop a mind of relinquishment of that must have. Of course, by all means, enjoy when we do have. Enjoy it. I will say, on the other hand, when people say, the chocolate's there and they go, oh, I shouldn't, but they pick it up. It's just like, well, if you're going to have it, enjoy it. What's the point of going, I shouldn't, and feeling guilty? You might as well enjoy it, but don't think it's going to give you everlasting happiness. It will give you some temporary deliciousness, right? And you will enjoy that. So please do. So never arising for even 1 second, that sort of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence. And we can unpack for ourselves what they are. It can be to the weather. I'm just thinking nice sunny day or not nice, or that might be an aversion for you. I don't know. Anything that we've got that attraction to. So letting go of that, and all day and night. So that's only part 1. Part 2, all day and night, so 24/7, the intention seeking liberation arises. So you've neither got that craving, desire, nor do you, but at the same time, all day and night means when you're awake and when you're asleep, there's no intention seeking, there's only the intention seeking liberation, seeking freedom from this cycle of existence. Then the thought of renunciation has been generated. What it means here is what we would say spontaneous renunciation, uncontrived. It's just there 24/7. Now, for us ordinary folks, it's a bit of a seesaw. So we're working on it. So this is called contrived, or sometimes called artificial. I don't so much like artificial because it's sort of like you're faking it, but you're not. You're training in it. It's a genuine desire. It's just not yet become spontaneous. When it does become spontaneous, then it's said that you enter the path of accumulation. Not the Mahayana path, but you enter the path of accumulation. So we have these 5 paths: the path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, path of normal learning. So you enter the path of accumulation. So even though I could say, well, I do not have spontaneous renunciation, working on it, much better than, we look back, much better than it was 10, 20 years ago, but nowhere near there. Nonetheless, still working on accumulating the merit, even though I haven't yet achieved the path of accumulation. So we could say we're accumulating the merit to achieve the path of accumulation of merit. But as Lama Yeshe said, this is our lifetime practice, accumulation of merit and purifying of negativity. It's like we had a Vajrasattva practice here yesterday. We have prostration. We have all the practices. Yeah.
One quick question.
Please.
So at the point where someone is fully aware of the attachment and how poisonous it is, and let's say someone has even developed a hatred for attachment, like very much hate, how can at that moment stop the attachment? Because I see it as a problem. I feel the poison, but I can't do anything about it.
Okay. So one danger is hatred. So it's like we've substituted the desire for anger at that. It might be anger at ourselves for having that attachment. And so that's put another afflicted state of mind in place of that one. So that's made it worse. So that makes it more difficult. So we want to let go of that desirous attachment, but just generally what's said is, rather than that, having a mind of contentment. If I have it, I have it. If I don't have it, I don't have it. It's not like, oh, I can't stand it. Now, so we need to be a bit more even-minded about it. So we can go from one extreme to the other. We go to the extreme of, and we all do this, stream of attachment, stream of aversion. So we have to find this middle way where we're not at either extreme in that situation. And so you just keep working at it, noticing, oh, there's my desire mind. There's, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, go into the shopping mall, he said, and see where your desire goes, but don't buy, stick to your shopping list. Well, he didn't say that, but I say that, stick to your shopping list. I say that to myself. It's not on your shopping list. And what I delight on my shopping list, because I put it on my phone, is when I can delete it. So shopping list gets shorter. So no need to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
So it's a gentle observation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not beating ourselves up about it. Because it's like getting out a whip, rather than rejoicing that, oh, I really want to let go of that. Isn't that great? Because what happens is we're being sold stuff all the time, aren't we? Must have this, do. Like even you're not following any PR, advertising, media, whatever. There's still like, okay, once I ordained, this stopped. But forever my family was like, when are you going to get a house? When are you going to get a partner? But I did have serial partners. But, all of those expectations of others, and then we think we've got to fulfill their expectations, which is not necessarily ours. So it's as the Kadampa masters say, becoming more and more out of step generally with society. Okay. So we've unpacked the four truths, the four noble truths. We say truths for noble beings, for Arya beings, those beings who do have a direct perceptual realization of emptiness, so who are free, if you like, of samsara, of the gross afflictions. They've completely purified that. So we've looked at that and how to put into practice the Eightfold Path, and how that can put an end to ignorance and the whole 12 links and all the afflictions, so that when we have that direct perceptual realization of emptiness, in other words, our mind is totally without elaboration, without the hatred, without all the afflicted states of mind. So it's completely at peace. As it says in the Four Seals, Nirvana is peace. That's the state we achieve, which is said to be an incredibly peaceful, blissful, calm state of mind. So we can attain it in this life, and become an Arya being, an Arhat, who Arhat meaning literally, it's often translated as foe destroyer, is a destroyer of our inner enemies, which is our own toxic emotions, afflicted states of mind, deluded states of mind, and so forth. That imagine being free of all that. You can understand how that would be very blissful, if not blissful, at least peaceful, not all the chitter chatter, blah, 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 blah going on. Yes.
So then is that a direct perceptor?
Direct perceptor?
Is that the same thing as...
Yes. So when we say direct perceptor, so it's a direct mental perception, because we have direct perceptors, like my eyes are direct perceptor, my ear, nose, tongue, skin. I left anything out? No, that's 5. They're all direct perceptors. And then we know that the mental consciousness comes in and puts a label, and then it all starts to fall apart. We're not in sync. We're putting things out there. I mean, they are out there, but the way they relate to things is separation, nothing to do with me. But a direct mental perceptor just sees things as they are, without that attachment aversion, without that realizing that, oh, I really have that desire to that, and then I get angry with my desire to that. So without all of that, without all of the stories we put on top, our stories about ourselves, so we just see everything in its place as it is.
That's different.
Free. No, that is an arhat. Yeah. But we have different levels of arhat. So we have the what we say, solitary realizer, Pratyeka Buddha, and hero. That's Pratyeka Buddha, hero, and bodhisattva arhats. So at different levels, right? Yeah. So the first two are going for self-liberation, whether by solitary realization, whether by hearing the teachings of the Buddha and gaining realization through the instructions. And then the bodhisattva one is, we know, the being, what do you call it? Working for the benefit of others, that's what we call it. Yeah. Okay. So an arhat is simply someone who has completely eradicated, we say, those seeds, those imprints on our mental continuum, those afflictions, so they can never arise again. They don't have the potency. So they're free of the causes of suffering, which is karma and afflictions. And so therefore, there's no cause, there's no suffering. So there was, we don't know, those beings exist in the world, we just don't know who they are. We can posit that His Holiness Dalai Lama would be one of those. He has a very childlike sense of humour. Doesn't mean everyone with a childlike sense of humour, but when he laughs, the whole body laughs. And also Paul Ekman said about His Holiness that Paul Ekman, who can read micro expressions, said he's the only person I've ever met who has no masking in their face. So there's no hiding, there's nothing hidden. I mean, yes, babies and so forth, but he's talking about adults. Nothing hidden. So it's not like, oh, I'm not going to let you see my affective states of mind here. I've got a big job and I've got to be seen as. He just is that. Lives, breathes, that's him. Like that. So, of course, I don't think there's a difficulty with us, having confidence in that, in His Holiness being like that. But His Holiness sent, there was one Lama who was told to go, who was invited to go to a conference in the US. I don't know who the conference was with, but he consulted with His Holiness, and His Holiness said, if they ask you about your realizations, you have to tell them. And because normally those beings don't tell you, oh, by the way, I'm a direct perceptor. The only reason they do that if it would be for your benefit. I mean, it's not against any vows. There is a vow that says if you don't have it and say that you have, that's a big lie. That's the big lie. Anyway, so this Lama went to the US and he was asked, what's your experience like? And very humbly, with his head down there somewhere, he said, I abide in immutable great bliss. Immutable great bliss. Like it's never going to be not great bliss. Something to look forward to. It can be attained in this very life. He was an example. And so it didn't say I would have a direct perceptual realization of emptiness, but we could deduce from that he does have a direct perceptual realization of emptiness, just by that quality of his experience. And when Punsog Rinpoche, so when he was being secretly educated here in Perth, just down the road from here, but never coming to the centre because they were in hiding, so to speak. And when he started, before he went to Sarah J, he went back to India. So he was still just 12 years old. He was turning on to he was 13. His birthday was coming up when he went, but he was still 12 years old. So he'd done some years of his primary school education here. And in Sydney, he was asked, have you realized emptiness? Because Geshe Lama Konchok, his previous incarnation, had had a direct perceptual realization of emptiness, which he also didn't say, but Lama Zopa said after Geshe Lama Konchok passed, he said, that conversation at the end of his life, and he didn't say what the conversation was. He was telling me he had realized emptiness. Lama Zopa said that after he passed. Right. Another thing that happened was his tongue split into, like, they did the whole cremation thing and so forth, and his tongue was left. It split into 5 pieces, and those 5 pieces were all the 5 Buddha colors, like the relics. Oh no, they might have been separate to the tongue. The tongue split into 3 pieces. Sorry. Anyway, he had the 5 colors of the 5 Buddhas. He was like, you might have attained a bit more than emptiness. Maybe, but who am I to say? But, you know, when Phuntsog Rinpoche was asked that, because, you know, people think, well, your mental continuum is a continuity from Geshe Lama Khonchog. He simply said, give me a break, I'm 12 years old. So he didn't say yes, he didn't say no. He just said, give me a break, I'm 12 years old. Okay. He's not going to say either. Of course, Geshe Zopa, who's his, you know, mentoring him and supporting him, and raising all the funding for his life, education home and everything else, and very proudly said a couple of years ago, he's topping all his classes. You know, he's just way ahead of everyone. And he realizes the importance, nonetheless, of going to pujas, because sometimes he goes to the pujas as well, because sometimes, you know, when you're training like that at the big monasteries and people go, oh, well, I've got to put the effort into study. He does both. He covers it all. How amazing. Yeah. Can't wait. We did ask him to come back and teach, so I think he wants to finish his studies first. Let's hope he finishes very quickly. He must be about 18, 19 now. A couple more years. Yeah. Is it?
I was just curious about our own interest in the realizations of others, what that says about us. Is it just we are curious or nosy, or
well, why are we so interested in the realizations of others? Well, this can be an individual response. We have to check up. Why am I so interested in the realizations of others? When I recount things like that and I look around, people smiling, it gives a sense of joy. But also, if you see the Buddha show the whole path to enlightenment, the Buddha in that life showed how you can progress on the path to enlightenment. So that the idea of that is it's giving a sense of this is how you can do it. If you look at someone like the Dalai Lama or someone like Phuntsog Rinpoche, you say, oh, it would have been easier at the time of the Buddha. But we look at these great beings alive now and going, well, they're doing it in the 21st century, right? In this world, they're doing it. So, and one other one that really inspires me, because she's not recognized as some reincarnate being. She may well be, but she's not recognized as that, is the Austrian yogini, meditator, Tara Lamo. So she's Austrian. And so at 19 years old, she didn't come from Sweden. She was in Switzerland. Anyway, she came from Europe. What did I say? Austrian. I think she was in Switzerland. And she went to these Dharma teachings, and the Lama there said, come and see me in Nepal. So she goes to Nepal. I mean, she could have said, yeah, if I'm ever in Nepal, I'll look you up. She goes to Nepal. Long story short, she finds him, stays with him for the next 3 years, where he's giving her the training to prepare for long retreat, which he then does for 20 years in very austere conditions. And then she was coming out of retreat. I think one of her parents was not well, perhaps dying. And so her Lama told her to go around, particularly actually within Australia, didn't mind at all. I don't know if anywhere else, maybe New Zealand, and to talk about her experience. And she'd never done that. And so it was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So when she was in Sydney and someone said, so your experience up there in, you know, this freezing cold village up in the mountains, and you know, having very austere conditions and being in retreat and so forth. Because we have this idealization about that. So maybe you're pointing to that, that we can idealize that. It's tough going, basically, because she said for the first maybe couple of years, it was very, very like, I mean, she had no hot water. She had, it was like a wooden cabin that had holes, and she had sweet wrappers that she'd fill up the holes with, and all of this. And she said, after a while, the villagers realized I was serious, like I wasn't one of these, you know, Western tourists. Oh yeah, just go for the experience, and a week later you're out of there. So after a while, they started supporting her, like giving her food and stuff. So 20 years of that. She goes, and in Sydney, she's asked, you know, what is that? How is your experience being here in Sydney? How's that different? You know, like, what's the difference? She said, it's the same. So if you're going to say it's the same with those totally very different, like here you are up in your retreat mode, and then suddenly you're thrust around a bunch of people in a busy city and so same. So her inner experience was the same. Now, whether that means she has this direct realization of emptiness or not, it certainly tells you that she has progressed vastly on the path. Okay, 20 years. But it just to know that it's possible for, shall we say, ordinary beings in this life right now in this world. So often we say, oh yeah, but it's too hard these days, or whatever. Probably our parents said that, and our grandparents said that, and everybody else said that as well. Yeah, and so I find that very inspiring, particularly a Westerner, you know.
His name was Lama.
Yeah, yeah. So her Lama had asked her to go to New Zealand and to mentor people in long retreat. Hasn't happened yet. I don't know if she's back in her retreat. She may well be. This was some years ago. And not even going that far, but just in terms of, and not knowing anything about what she's achieved. Venerable Sondru at Chenrezig Institute. So it'll be 7 years now that she's been in retreat. So just admiring that, you know, she's a Queenslander.
She's a mom.
She's a mom. She's all these things. She's a nun. And she, yeah, she just started being in retreat. First of all, she asked for permission to be in retreat for a year. And then she asked for another year. And then when the next request came, I think it's just like, well, last time she came out of retreat after about, must have been about 4 years, because it was in the year before we came here. She came out of retreat, and just to get medical stuff done and things done, just for 1 month. And I said to her, so how long will you be in retreat? And she says, I don't have an end date. So, yeah. So she's got the conditions for that and is utilizing those conditions. So, you know, it is possible. So it's very difficult to have these sorts of realizations. I mean, having sort of without doing long retreat for sure. But in the meantime, knowing that we haven't currently got those conditions. I won't say we won't have, but we currently don't have those conditions means our daily life is our practice, you know, a day-to-day life, all our engagements with other people and so forth, with our own mind. Okay. So this is a quote from Patachara in the Therigatha. So Therigatha was a collection of mainly poetry. This one says the first Buddhist women. From my memory, it was mostly poetry, and indeed this one is. I've done everything right and followed the rule of my teacher. So followed the teacher's advice. This is what, when we're looking at engaging with a spiritual teacher, that we do. We seek their advice and then we follow it immediately. it is said. So if we don't want to get the advice or we're not going to follow it, best not to ask. Many, many examples of that. I'm not lazy or proud. So she's saying, I've relinquished pride, I've relinquished laziness, like I put effort in to the practice. So why haven't I found peace? Maybe as we might say the same thing. Bathing my feet, I watched the bathwater spill down the slope. I concentrated my mind, the way you train a good horse. So developing that single point of concentration. Then I took a lamp and went into my cell, which means my room. Like in Catholicism, the nuns, the rooms were referred to as cells. Like if I go down to, when I go to Bunbury, a few times I've been to the art gallery, and it was Catholic nunnery previously, the art gallery. So there's one room upstairs that was a nun's cell, and it shows you the austerities that they lived with, actually, not so long ago, you know. It's quite impressive. So we go, that mattress is so not comfortable. It's so thin and so lumpy and straw, and you know, how long would I last on that, etc. Yeah. Checked the bed, sat down. I took a needle and pushed the wick down. When the lamp went out, my mind was freed. So basically, I spent my time in meditation until my mind was free. And it's sort of what it takes. But she achieved it, right? Until my mind was freed of all the afflictions. And so, again, from Lama Tsongkhapa and the three principal aspects of the path. So the three principal aspects of the path, this is coming from a Mahayana perspective, is another way of presenting the whole path to enlightenment. The three principal aspects being, again, renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view, the realization of emptiness. So once we follow that path, follow the advice, pursue the practice as advise, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, in this way you realize exactly the vital points of the three principal aspects of the path, the vital points. You sort of like get down to, okay, what is it I need to do? What is it that I'm aiming for? And so once you have that, again, he's saying resort to seeking solitude. In other words, go into retreat. Once you've got that foundation of the teachings on the three principal aspects of the path, and you know the vital points, it means you know them in your mind. You don't have to, like, they're there. They've ripened. Generate the power of effort. Is what it takes. A lot of effort over a long period of time. Generate the power of effort and quickly accomplish your final goal, my child. So he's talking about attaining enlightenment because we have the bodhicitta in there as well. Quickly accomplish your final goal, my child. So Lama Tsongkhapa is referring to us as his children. We are in the lineage of Lama Tsongkhapa, so as being the child of that lineage. Okay, so yes, it takes a long haul. There's no question, even you do it in this lifetime, still takes a long haul, right? We have to deduce, just that we're here right now, that we have created the most incredible, best conditions to progress phenomenally on the spiritual path in this very life. We have all the conditions. There's no other conditions to look for, except maybe the time. The time, because there are places to do retreat. But even saying, well, I can't go for that long. Maybe we can make a commitment to ourselves, you know. I could do a 2 or 3 week retreat, or even starting with a 1 week retreat, or even starting with a 1 day retreat, like once a month, or few weeks retreat once a year, or so forth. So making, in other words, we have to set aside the time in our mind, in our diaries, otherwise it ain't going to happen. We probably know this. Yeah, it'll be then, it'll be then, it'll be then. Oh, good, I'm still alive. Phew, I didn't die before I had the retreat. So, you know, I'm saying this to you, but I'm saying it to myself as much, right? So it does take a lot of effort, because not only, of course, we generate that aspiration on a daily basis, often frequently throughout the day. However, we're also bombarded with a lot of samsaric stuff that pulls us in other directions throughout the day as well. So we're having to negotiate all that. We're having to negotiate with family, with work, with the environment, life, this life. Okay. So in summary, in terms of the Four Noble Truths, is the idea that we live on a daily basis in an awareness of the Four Noble Truths. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche has a little book on the Four Noble Truths, a little one like this, in that he gives this advice. We should spend a few minutes each day, whether at home or while we're out, driving to work, returning from work, under the shower, shopping, anywhere, anytime, any place, reflecting on the subjects of the Four Noble Truths. To reflect on the subjects, of course, we have to know the subjects. These subjects include impermanence and death. That's a very, I think, easy one to be reflecting on as we're going about our daily business. It's my friend, she's in her mid-70s, maybe later 70s now, has finally stopped visiting prisons for the prison project because you do a round trip of Victoria and half of New South Wales country, regional areas, and used the whole time that she was travelling reflecting on impermanence of everything that she drove by and herself and everything. And just that reflection on impermanence. I remember when I was first receiving these teachings on impermanence, and I'd be on the bus on the way to work, and it was just everybody who got on and off the bus, the shops, and I'd be like, in 100 years' time, that'll be gone. And then I go, oh, it's gone before 100 years. The shops and everything. I had a photographer friend who was photographing just one street in Sydney, and it changes. It was changing all the time. He could, I don't know if he's still doing that, but that street changes all the time. You've probably got a few streets around here like that that change all the time. Things open, things close, things change, things, even the street itself changes, you know, like it used to go that way, now it goes that way. So just reflecting it from a point of view, not a frustration, but yeah, everything's impermanent, subject to change. So that's at a very gross level of impermanence, but if we're really contemplating that, no, and the meditation cushion's the best place, the moment by moment, subtle changes within our body, within our mind, that everything is changing subtly, moment by moment by moment, very all the subtle energies in the body, outside the body, everywhere. That means letting go of grasping at things to be predictable, fixed, reliable, stable, all these things which they're not. Nothing is. Okay. Impermanence and death, precious human rebirth, devotion to the Guru, the Lama, to our spiritual teacher, and that devotion being, as we said, following their instructions. So what gives them greatest joy is our practice. What will give us greatest joy is that we're here contemplating the Dharma, discussing the Dharma, and so forth. It's most important. The sufferings of samsara, which we've been looking at, taking refuge in the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, karma, 12 links, how delusions function and their antidotes, renouncing samsara, developing the good heart, so the heart of cultivating bodhicitta, love, compassion, kindness, all of that, and cultivating the wisdom, realizing emptiness. So the whole path. Exactly, thinking the Lamrim year. I don't have a copy with me. I'd be holding it up saying, it's laid out. The whole year's laid out. You just read one of those contemplations every day. There you have. You're following that advice day by day by day. It's laid out for us. Do we have books here? Anyway, it's free online. Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archives. You can do online. Yeah. So the Tara Meditation Center, they're doing that this year, day by day by day by day by day. I think it's up to impermanence and death now, isn't it? Next topic, impermanence, impermanence and death. Yeah.
I'm still in the precious human paper at the end of that.
Yeah, so that it's laid out day by day for us. We don't have to think, what am I going to contemplate on? It's like those little books of daily meditations or affirmations or whatever. Here we have daily Lamrim, day by day. So we can reflect on it this year, next year, just keep it going, year after year after year after year. And what's nice to do is as you go through it, like go through the reading for the day and ask yourself questions about that. Oh, do I really subscribe to that? How do I do that? You know, just asking, oh yeah, well, I know that one. I know that because not just read the page, but interrogate your own understanding of that and how you can put it into practice in your day. Great way to set yourself up for the day. Really good. Really good. Okay. So any questions, comments? Yes.
There's a practice I'm trying to, or I incorporate into my daily.
Yes.
That's recommended by Lama Zopa,
yeah.
direct meditation on the great way to enlightenment. And in that it says, never giving up the 4 sessions. I don't know if you're familiar with that line in that verse.
Yeah, so never giving up the 4 sessions.
Is that the 4 noble truths?
No, never giving up the 4 sessions is in relation to Tantra. So is it in that section on Tantra? Yeah, have another look because I'm pretty sure that's where you're going to find that. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much where that one is. Yeah. So there are different commitments that come along. I think also in, you get me a prayer book, Foundation of All Good Qualities, I think.
Yeah, it's similar.
In there, yeah. So that's in the Tantric section. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you're off the hook if you haven't taken the highest yoga Tantra empowerment.
I'm off the hook.
Yeah. For now.
Aspiration.
Yeah, it's all aspirational. But on the other hand, the 4 sessions are the gold one, please. The 4 sessions are called the 4 sessions because it splits up the day into, if I'm correct, 6 hours, every 6 hours. Yeah. Yeah. And in that way, we can say, oh, okay, well, I can not necessarily literally like that, but split my day up into, yeah, I'm going to have a contemplation moment regularly throughout the day, at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner, whatever. You know, and we split up the day and go, okay, I'll just have a meditating pause moment, read one of those reflections, or, you know, say some prayers and mantras, etc. Thank you. So I do want to sort of read out the verse. I don't think this one's my copy. No, this one's my copy. This book. I must have brought it back at some time because sometimes I go out there and go, that belongs in the Gompa. I think I brought back my own one because I use the retreat book, which is a little bit more extensive than this one.
Foundation of All Good Qualities?
Yeah, 143 or 243. No, that's 3 principles and 143. Okay. Yeah, that's exactly it. So that's on Tantra. So that's where within the outline, if you go through and can tell what topic as you go through the outline, which topic is for the different verses. So it's very much under the Tantra. Then having realized the importance of the two stages, the essence of the Vajrayana. So this is tantric practice. Highest yoga tantra, the two stages, generation and completion stage, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions. Yeah. Please. So, yeah. But it's good. It's good to interrogate and go, is that something I should be doing?
Could I just ask one more question? You mentioned about the move. I didn't ask, but I didn't wait for the reply. I just nudged straight into the question. The Lam Rim Weir.
Yes.
I mean, I've had times when I've started to just do 1 page a day.
Yeah.
Is it best to do that in correlation to the discovering Buddhism topic that we're learning?
That would be nice, yeah, to do it in correlation, because you can go straight to we're finishing off Samsara and Nirvana. So the next topic, and you've already done the flyer. Thank you very much. Bodhicitta. Lovely. Yeah.
So what are we in correlation?
Yeah, that will be, because then your contemplations, is reinforcing the topic that we're doing. That would be a nice way to go about doing it. Yeah. Yeah. In which case you have to get through a whole lot of readings in a shorter period of time. So you can start now, start ahead, and by, what is it, 21st of April. Yeah. A bit of a, yeah. Okay. Any other questions, comments? So one thing we didn't cover was I've just mentioned this. So when we're turning towards this renunciation of samsara, in the lower scope, it's renunciation of the lower realms, which is part of, or a fear of going to the lower realms, which is one of the main drivers for taking refuge. The other one, having faith and conviction in the teachings of the Buddha. So here, it's a renunciation for all of samsara, those whole 12 links, which had all the 6 realms in there. So we sort of outlined the 6 realms, but I just wanted to slightly cover a little bit about the suffering of the 6 realms, just slightly. Because if we're going to develop an aversion for that, or not wanting to be reborn there, we have to know what it is we don't want to experience, and think, why don't I want to go there? Sounds pretty good to me. Or maybe the hell realms don't sound good to you, right? I think that's a given. But, I have a friend of mine who was so attached to dogs that I was always worried that she was going to be reborn as a dog, because her whole life was absorbed around dogs and, delighting in her dog and dogs and other dogs. I mean, I might have, well, it wasn't my choice, actually. Anyway, she inherited my dog, who's since died, when I was moving into the Dharma Center, and there was another animal obviously. Since then, at that center, they allow animals. Anyway, not holding a grudge. It was very good for my practice, because I had, believe it or not, this dog had a photographer come in and do like amazing, beautiful shots of this scruffy little terrier that was a rescue dog. So I had that. And even I moved into the Dharma Center, I still have that. I never put it on my wall, but I still had, because it was a beautiful photo of her. I still attached the photo at some point. You've got to relinquish that, just have the memories, just relinquish that. Anyway, that was something to work on. We've all got things to work on. But I do know that a doggy existence is not a happy one. So, yeah. When you end up in the lap of luxury of the Dharma, practitioners, well, not luxury externally, but the Dharma practitioners, house. Okay. She probably worked hard at that in past lives because she'd born on the wrong side of the railway tracks. Obviously, she'd had a very suffering existence. And first of all, I got an operation on her blind eye because it was causing her more pain. So she probably thought at that point she was going to leave home. She's torturing me. I've had enough torturing my life. No, she knew she was on a good wicket. It only took her a few days to realise that. She wasn't sure. A few days, she was done. She was in. And then you think, well, at least create the conditions for those animals and mamas. Obviously, we have all this animal blessings, liberation practice that put the imprints into their mind. And one of my friends in the US would play for the fish in the fishbowl, Sangata Sutra, on a continuous loop all day when she was out of work. Things like that. Anyway, let's create the imprints we can. So suffering of the God realms, so they're the cushy ones, suburbs that you might have places to live. You might think you want to live there. So indeed, they've got very subtle bodies of light, so they don't suffer the clunky suffering that we have with these bodies of bones and all the other bits and pieces. But 7 days before their very long life comes to an end, so they say that, 999 years. I don't know why it's always like 999 or, whatever. It's always that one less than a round number, whatever it is. In any case, they get a prediction of their coming rebirth. So also their body, their beautiful light body loses its splendor, of having a gorgeous appearance, having beautiful aroma, and having all the resources, clothes and thrones and comfort and so forth. And so their bodies give off less light, and then water sticks to their bodies when they wash. I guess towels don't do it for them, so it's uncomfortable. And the jewelry, the gorgeous jewelry they have, starts to make unpleasant clunking sounds. And their eyes blink, and they're just stuck in one spot.
Oh my God, they would have to be lower, isn't it?
What was that?
Oh my God, those would have to be lower. So
yeah, if you haven't got yourself out of samsara, yeah. So the danger of being reborn in the God realms, everything for the rest of those 991 years is so cushy. There's no impetus because you don't have that gross suffering. There's no impetus to, usually the impetus for wanting change is that we don't like what we've got.